Good Yontif Chassidim. Yontif, good Yontif. Rabbi Cantor said they brought, what was that you said? Explainers and verschiedene other arousers. But Hey Teves is nishkin. Hey Teves is so fundamental, and really one of the reasons that we have to focus on what Hey Teves is about. You know, when the Gemara talked about Hanukkah, and the Gemara begins with a rhetorical question, "My Hanukkah?" Much has been explained. Why does the Gemara have to ask that? Everybody knows what Hanukkah is. But there are issues. The question is answered. Now is not the time to go into that discussion. But the organizers asked that we would talk a little bit about the time that this was going on and focus a little bit about what this means to us. And the truth is, when everyone here, and I guess throughout the world, is well versed more or less as to what the events were about Hey Teves. I had an opportunity to see a group of children this afternoon in the Rebbe's library. I said it's important that you understand that Hey Teves is not only about the library. Hey Teves has a much bigger story. It's, although we call Pesach Chag HaMatzos, but Pesach has a very big, not only backstory, but that's what it's about, our liberation, our freedom as a people, our birth. And Hey Teves is very similar. So Sforim to Hey Teves is like Matzah to Pesach, an integral piece, but there's something much greater. And it's ironic because as a Bocher in Yeshiva, when this happened, and many of the Jungelite here, they're very young, thank you for the youth. When everyone knew what happened, the most that we could muster, we felt very, very, very ungezeugen because the Rebbe was ungezeugen. The Rebbe wasn't happy, so we weren't happy. But that it should be looked at as an affront to the Rebbe's leadership, the way the Rebbe was looking at it, no one even, it didn't enter our minds ever. Because as Chassidim, there was never any such question whatsoever. To what did, and maybe that was, we saw the video earlier, and the Rebbe said he was awaiting for Chassidim to maybe get more involved. I'm not here to justify all the Chassidim, but possibly by Chassidim, there was no question, no issue. But allow us for a moment to focus on some of the events and what they meant, and some of what we realized at the time, and some of what we realized with the time, as the time went on. The Rebbe became our Rebbe and the Nasi on Yud Shvat, Tovshin Yud. And although the Rebbe did not openly assume that title till a year later, on Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph, nevertheless, Chassidim went to the Rebbe. Those who really wouldn't give in, who weren't quitters, got much hadracha from the Rebbe at that time. People gave in their allegiance, their hiskashrus, their connection, and the Rebbe was the Rebbe. And everyone remembers the historic Farbrengen of Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph. And that wasn't the first time the Rebbe Farbrengt. On the contrary, the Rebbe did Farbrengt throughout the year, on Shabbosim, on special occasions. The Rebbe even Farbrengt when it was his own. Now we of course understand that the Rebbe's own something is our something. So Chof of the Rebbe already Farbrengt in Tovshin Yud. So this is a date. Yud Beis Tammuz, Yud Tes Kislev Tovshin Yud Aleph, etc. The Rebbe Farbrengt. But there was something that was the official, so to speak, when the Rebbe assumed openly the position of the Nasi, the Rebbe then said the Maimer, the very famous Maimer of Bossi Legani. And that was by Chassidim the recognition, the excitement, the Shechiyonu, the happiness that the Rebbe said Chassidus. The Rebbe said the Maimer. And that's how it went through the years. Parenthetical, the Olam here, everyone here is well versed in how the Mamorim work. But allow me just for a moment to just describe how a Maimer and what a Maimer is. A Maimer is the Chassidic discourse that in an open way we were able to see even people who dwell in brick homes, and we're not experts on very holy and esoteric things. We're able to see that by delivering of a Maimer, there was something special, to the extent that in a Fabrengen, those that remember, there are people here of various ages, Nechav, Slamets, Mems. The procedure was that the Rebbe would look towards the Chayzer for a moment and nod his head to let him know that now there's going to be the Chassidus, and he would begin a niggin to prepare and to put everyone into to take us up a few steps. And then in the middle of the niggin, Rabbi Chadakov would rise and everyone would rise. And at that time, sometimes at the beginning of it, the Rebbe would still be saying L'chaim L'viracha to people, but somewhere in the middle, suddenly you saw the Rebbe's gazing off to somewhere in some place that we knew we couldn't see. This was all in front of our very eyes, in an open, revealed manner. And then the Rebbe, during that time, would tie a handkerchief to his hand, his holy hands. And when the niggin finished, and everyone was already standing, the Rebbe closed his eyes and began to deliver the Maimer in a different tune and format than the rest of the talks of the Fabrengen. This was something awesome. So this is well known. Now it came a time for a circumstance, the passing of the Rebbe's Holy Mother, the Rebbetzin, and the Rebbe said he's going to Fabring every Shabbos, every single Shabbos. And for whatever reason, there was, we don't understand this. We could just see the facts, just the facts. The Rebbe explained that there was Chassidus every single week, and there was a format, wasn't necessarily then introduced, but the Rebbe explained, and it was called a Maimer Ke'ein Sicha. The Rebbe actually said the Maimer, but not in that dramatic way that we just spoke about, but in a way as if it would be a talk. It was from the beginning of the Sicha. The Rebbe would begin with a Dibra Maschil, with a starting verse, and he would say it's explained, whatever it is, and maybe one person would stand up, but everybody was to remain seated. The Rebbe did have the handkerchief, his eyes were open, and he said it in a different tune. The Toida is the Toida, the same. But the Rebbe explained that because there are so many Fabrengens, there may be some type of a limitation here on the Chassidus and how it could be delivered. So I have to smuggle it in. That's the wording that the Rebbe used. I have to smuggle in the Maimer. It has to be smuggled in. It can't be with the whole revelation like a regular Maimer. That's what the Rebbe said. And then through the years, not that I don't know if anyone ever figured this out. We're not Yoidei Das Elyon. We don't know how and when the Rebbe did, but at a big Fabrengen, the ones that were set forth from the beginning of the year, you knew there would be a Maimer, and the Maimer would be in the traditional way, whether it was Yud Shvat and Yutas Kislev Yud Shvat and Yud Bistam was a Chafov, not always, but whenever it was, and special Shabbosim throughout the year, this is how it would be. Then on Shabbosim, many or most, when it wasn't a Fabrengen every Shabbos, then you see, and you could see this in the records of the Fabrengen. It says Tzivul and Hagen. He instructed to sing the preparatory niggin, and there was also during the regular Fabrengens such mamorim. Now what happened? Now let's fast forward. It came the year, and we know the story, It broke. The Rebbe broke it to us in Tavshin Rem Hey in Yud Beis Tammuz. And we're not going to go into the details of the story. It's well known and recorded, and you can read it and see it, and etc. But I want to just focus for a moment on something that happened when actually Tavshin Mem Vav began. And in Tishrei, in that holy month, there are also many significant things. Everything was pretty, although there was a time of duress, etc. But nevertheless, there were the Mamorim. And suddenly, from Shabbos Bereishis and on, the Bochrim noticed there's an issue here. There are no more Mamorim in that dramatic way with a preparatory niggin, and the Rebbe saying it with a niggin and his eyes closed and everyone standing. That ended. And after a few times that it happened, it dawned on the Chassidim. Nafal la'hem ha'asimon. They realized that this is due to the decree, the kitrug. The Rebbe is looking at this problem, this issue, as an affront to the very pinnacle of the task that a Nasi does, and that is saying Chassidus. And I say the pinnacle because if I bring about this, and it's again not the time now, maybe we'll just mention that in the Maimer we have Hiroyas, lessons, encouragement, everything is there in the Mamorim. There are many media, many ways, many vehicles to learn the Rebbe's Torah and to connect. But certainly the top one is the Maimer, without question. And here, the Rebbe had to go and revert to that smuggling method of Mamorim. And subsequently, Mamorim actually ended. Now, when the victory of the Dar Notzach Hey Teves happened, Yael Kanzel Zayn Gesund said an interesting thought, not just a thought, but the fact. And he said that this was this war, this opposition, wasn't to the oyer of Chassidus, to the Chassidus itself. We know, like the Rabbi Cantor said, there are parallels between Yutas Kislev and Hey Teves. And of course, on Yutas Kislev, they weren't going to kill the Alter Rebbe Chas v'Sholem, using those words. They were, whatever it was, there were some kind of a punishment. And the Alter Rebbe asked, should he continue? He asked the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And then they instructed him, of course, and even more and more. So that was about Chassidus. Chassidus was already established. Here, it was a Melchama, it was an opposition to the Mo'er, to the luminary, not just to the light. And that's what Hey Teves was about. And this is something that was the weakness, the ironic weakness, because Chassidim Bochrim never saw, God forbid, something lacking in a Mo'er. We didn't see that. We didn't feel that. We only felt that we were under pressure, etc., because the Rebbe was not happy about something. Something was going on, something was wrong. It certainly wasn't about the action at hand that could have brought this about. And therefore, that's what Hey Teves is about. And we just saw in the video, the Rebbe says something, and he precedes the very famous words that are words that the Rebbe said after 35 years, so-and-so says such and such, and it's really not the case. The Rebbe uses several terms. Number one, he says, it's a complete and total lie, not an inaccuracy, not a falsehood. He says it's a sheker gomer, it's a lie. That's number one. Number two, he says, what's the truth? And he doesn't just use the term, what's the emes? He says the emes and the emes la'amitoi. We know that the Alter Rebbe used that term, and he chose to use that term, even though some may fall by the wayside. But the sterling, strong truth is that he's 35 years mer lebedik, more alive, more active and stronger than he ever was. And certainly I don't want to say it's a silver lining, because when the Rebbe was under such duress, there's no such thing as a silver lining. But we did learn in that times so many lessons about and the value and the treasure that our doyer has, our Rebbe. And Hey Teves, we have here now tonight, as Rebbe Cantor said, several arousers who will be sharing with us different things and explainers. 3 terms, right? I don't know if we have to be medayik, but hopefully there'll be poil pool lasam, and we'll talk about that. And the Rebbe said at that time that he's more alive, more active, and stronger in us, through us, and through us to the whole world. And it's never been a time like Hey Teves, Tufshin Ayin Tes. The Rebbe has never been so alive like he is today. And this is something that the Rebbe said is not only emes, but emes la'amitoi, the truth, the real truth. Now, the main goal and the prize that the Rebbe was looking for, and therefore, and the Rebbe said that this is the Dan Natzach regarding the kisvei, the manuscripts, meaning the chassidus of our Rabbeim, and that it was a victory in the eyes of all peoples, that really there is no opposition. And the Rebbe looked at it like it was a problem, not just on his Nesias, but on the Rishon from the Alter Rebbe, all the Rebbeim. And therefore, the Rebbe looked at it like a victory, and therefore we celebrate it with Chassidus and learning Chassidus, and certainly with learning the Rebbe's Chassidus, and certainly with learning the Mamorim. And we know, we've all heard the story, a very, very phenomenal thing, going back to the idea of the Mamorim. And that is when the master of the Rebbe and those that were dealing with the court case went into the Rebbe to tell him, and this is already 3.5 years later, 4 years later, and he said everything is over now, with all the appeals, all the agreements, everything is signed on a dotted line, everything is finished now, the whole thing is done. The Rebbe just commented one thing. He said, now we'll be able to say Chassidus. This is what the Rebbe said. So that means that affront had ended. And the Rebbe gave us Chassidus in a new way, in a great way, in a most phenomenal way. So L'chaim Chassidim, that today is the Dan Notzach. And the Rebbe said that the Dan Notzach, the victory of the Sfarim and of this thing, is by each and every one of us participating, focusing on Sfarim, focusing on what it says in the Sfarim, learning the Sfarim. And certainly, after, like we said, that to the whole world, that's the ultimate Yafutza Mainasecha Chutza, and we'll all be able to see the Rebbe Be'enei Basar with the coming of Mashiach immediately, L'chaim. Sing, yeah, start a nigga.
Yeah.